So sitting next to me today is a 2021 Ford Explorer Timberline. Today I'm going to be going over all the changes Ford made to this trim level of the Explorer. So make sure you sit back and we can go through everything that Ford did to make the Timberline more off-road oriented. All right, so starting up front, you could see that Ford made some changes to the front fascia of this vehicle. You could see instead of a blue Ford badge, they gave it a black one, and they gave it a different style grille. These little slits right here are for an optional auxiliary light set that you can install in the car that is controllable by an auxiliary switch on the interior, but they do not come standard on the Ford Explorer Timberline. You have to buy those on the side. You can also see that they also have these orange accents that they've put on the front fascia of the car. These orange tow hooks right here and a steel bash plate down there at the bottom. That way you don't ruin anything when you go over a large bump and just smash right into the ground. And then you also have some Timberline logos up here. Now moving on to the side, you have these 18-inch aluminum gloss black rims right here wrapped in all-terrain tires, 265s front and back. And as for other information on this car, this has 8.66 inches of ground clearance compared to the normal 7.9 on the regular Explorers. It has a 18.9 degree breakover angle, a 23.5 degree approach angle, and a 23.7 degree departure angle. As for the appearance on the side, it is pretty normal for the Explorer. Other than that, on the rims, you have an etched-in Timberline badge, and you have a Timberline badge right here, which reminds me of the little badges that you see on the Broncos. Now, moving on to the back, it's pretty normal as well. You have a four-wheel drive badge. All Timberlines come in four-wheel drive with the 2.3-liter inline four, and then another Timberline badge right here, just in case you forget what you're driving. Now, that's about it for the exterior. Other than that, Ford did do some suspension changes. They've added upgraded shocks in the rear and upgraded suspension all around just for more off-road capability. Now, we can open up the engine and see what they've got going on in there. Now, as for the engine, this is a 2.3-liter inline four mix, 300 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque, and it's very familiar to anyone who knows other Ford vehicles. They use this engine in the EcoBoost Mustang, they use it in the Ford Ranger, and they use it in other Explorers, and they used it in the Ford Focus RS, where it made 350 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. So this engine is very versatile and has been put in many vehicles, and I think it fits really well for the lower trim levels of the Ford Explorer. Behind the third row, you get 18.2 cubic feet of cargo capacity back here. Behind the second row, you get 47.9 cubic feet of cargo capacity. And behind the first row, if you fold all the seats down, you get 87.8 cubic feet of capacity. So you do have plenty of room to store everything you want in here, excluding the fact that, if you have the third row up, you're going to be a little limited to space. But other than that, if you only have like 4 people you're toting around, then you should be fine. All right, so now moving on to the interior of the Timberline, you can see you have these green colored seats with the orange contrast stitching on them, and then Timberline logos on the backs of the seat. And then you have this cloth center right here. Now you can get these heated, get the steering wheel heated, but you cannot get them cooled. As for some of the technology in here, this screen right here, this is the only screen you get. This is an 8-inch screen. Now on higher level Explorer trims, you can get a larger screen that's more vertical shaped, and you can get a digital gauge cluster. Like in the ST, you can get the technology package, which adds the larger screen. But for this one, this is about as high as the Timberline can go with the technology it has, though the digital gauge cluster is still nice, even though it's not fully digital. This one is also equipped with the Ford Copilot 360 2.0 system, which adds lane keep assist, lane centering assist, and adaptive cruise control, so you can set it to kind of drive itself on the highway if you would like. Overall, these are some pretty nice and comfortable seats, and the technology you get in this car is pretty good. I do like the trim inlays right here. They do look pretty unique, and they're only on the Timberline. And then you have a nice aluminum trim covering your storage areas down here. There's not too much cheap looking plastic in here, actually. It's pretty nice for what it is. And this one, the Timberline starts at $46,245 if you were interested. There is a lot of soft touch materials in here and on the door over here, and the seats again are super comfortable and soft. Storage areas in here, you have a pretty deep looking center console with a 12-volt socket in there, and then a nice size glove box right here where you can fit tons of stuff. And then in here you have a USB Type-C and a USB Type-A along with a 12-volt socket. All right, now we can go ahead and start the Timberline up. Now, your buttons down here, you have a traction control button, auto stop start, and a hill descent control button right here. You also have auto hold, which I think a lot more cars should come equipped with auto hold. It is a nice feature if you're too lazy to keep your foot on the brake at a stoplight, and of course your parking brake right here. This one has the paddle shifter, so if you wanted to put it in manual mode, you could do that as well. Now, as for drive modes, you do have tow and haul. This can tow. You have a sport mode, an eco mode, a normal mode, a slippery mode, a trail mode, and a deep snow and sand. The Explorer is not really meant for doing anything like rock crawling or major off-roading, but it is meant for going over trails in the Timberline. That is basically how Ford has marketed this vehicle. This one's also been equipped with the power moonroof right here. I believe that's a $1,650 option for this power moonroof, but that's about it for the front seats of this vehicle. It is pretty standard for the Explorer, but you do get some cool little changes for the interior of the Timberline, including the different colored seats and the contrast stitching. And the wheel has nice perforated leather on it on the sides, and it is pretty bulky feeling, and it's a D wheel. I mean, they have that in the ST2, and I really like it. As for that auxiliary switch, it's over here under the fog light switch, just in case you're interested. And of course, this has a power tailgate as well. And now we can move on to the back seats and see what's going on back there. All right, now the back seats are just as comfortable to be in as the front seats are. You do get these little armrests right here if you get the captain's chairs. You can also get a bench back here if you would like, but it does come standard with the captain's chairs. 2 cup holders down here with some more storage. This one has heated seats in the rear with its own climate zone, a USB Type-C and a USB Type-A, and another 12-volt socket. Like I said, plenty of room back here, a good probably 6 inches right here of legroom, and a decent amount of headroom as long as you're slouching a little. If you sit straight up all the way, you do have a decent amount of headroom as well. You also get that green vinyl right here, and then you get the orange contrast stitching. And again, soft touch materials back here and about everywhere you are going to be touching. So Ford hooked you up with that. Now there is a third row in this vehicle, and there's stuff back here, but I guess I could attempt to move back there. We can just move all this stuff out of the way. Now I know plenty of people who have these new Explorers, especially the ST models, which I do really like. So we can fold down this seat. Oy! That way you can see me attempt to climb back here. And I have sat in the back of an Explorer before, but they're not very comfortable for someone above, like, 4 feet tall. As you can see, my knees are literally buried into the back of the second row. But you do get cup holders back here, which is a nice gesture. And, these seats aren't too hard. They're not as soft as the second or first row are, but these aren't that bad. And they still kept the contrast stitching with the green seats. I do like that. But you can also power fold these seats to go all the way down and then just have this area completely open for storage if you would like. So you don't have to worry about always having the third row up. All right, so now we're going to take it on a trail for a couple minutes and see how it performs over some medium-sized rocks and how it does on bumpy terrain. So like I said, this has trail mode, which we're going to put it in right now, which disables the traction control, so that's not on. Just pop it in drive using that turn wheel, which I know some people out there do not like that turn wheel. But these all-terrain tires, we should be fine. And if you didn't know, the Explorers come with all-around independent suspension. There is no live axles, solid axles. There's nothing like that. So 4-wheel independent suspension. So right now we're just on a regular trail. Nothing special about this. It's rocky. It's not like it's muddy or anything like that. So sadly, we're not going to be able to take it through anything like that because it does not rain here in the desert. Now, I am going to try and take a Timberline, one of these, and maybe the Expedition Timberline coming out on a more intense trail later in the future. So do not take this trail to heart because I'm not going to make this my full review of how it does off-road. It's actually doing pretty well right now. Wow. And just like I said, this has all-around independent suspension. So does the Bronco. It's actually doing pretty well. It just feels like I'm driving over this in like an F-150 or a truck. Some small bumps. And it's not that we're testing like this thing's ground clearance or anything like that, but it is doing okay over this. So this isn't anything crazy. Like I said, I don't want to use this for my test of it being on a trail, but it's doing fine. And these all-terrain tires are just going over this like it's nothing. It's like it's actually pretty smooth. So yeah, like I said, I've gone over a lot of the specs of this already, but like I said, 8.66 inches of ground clearance. And I really hope that in the video that's upcoming of me taking one of these off-road and onto a more intense trail, that I do get to test those angles, being the brake over the approach and the departure angle, because they are more than the normal Explorer. But yeah, it's taking this trail with ease without any problems at all. And it is pretty smooth. So if you are just taking So I just noticed something about the way the engine is holding its RPMs. It's actually holding them pretty high, and that's to maintain that torque. So if it upshifts, it's going to lose all of its power because the revs are going to drop. So to maintain its power, it's going to hold it in a certain gear, and it's just holding it in first gear right now, which is, I didn't know it was doing that until I looked down at the tachometer and said, the engine seems to be a little loud. And I looked down and I was like, we're at 3,000 RPMs. So yeah, and like I said, it's just smoothly going over this terrain right now. So yeah, no worries. It does fine on like light difficulty trails. All right, so now we're on normal road, and this is basically where this Explorer is going to live most of the time. It's where most Explorers live 99% of the time. And even with this 2.3, I gotta say, it is pretty punchy. This thing's pretty quick for this mid-sized SUV and an inline-4. I can see why they dropped it in this car, because it does perfectly fine. Now, like I said, in the interior portion of this video, it does have lane keep assist, lane centering, and adaptive cruise control. Now with that lane centering, it's basically auto steer, so it can steer itself pretty well on the highway, just as long as you have your hands on the steering wheel. Now Ford is coming out with Blue Cruise at some point on all of its upper-end vehicles, and I believe the Explorer is getting Blue Cruise as well. But it's going to have an IR sensor that reads your eyes, so you don't have to keep your hands on the steering wheel. And on the road, the suspension is soft. It goes over bumps pretty well without any issue at all. I'm going to put it in sport mode real quick and see how it reacts. Oh yeah, throttle response is much greater. And it changes the little graphics on the screen from being blue to red. Holds the gears a little longer, throttle response is better. But I don't feel any difference in the steering like if you were to put it in sport mode with a Mustang. And of course, if you would like, you can also put it into manual mode and upshift by yourself with these paddles, which this is a pretty responsive transmission. Yeah, it's pretty responsive. Let me put it back in normal mode. We'll drop it back into normal mode. You also have eco mode just in case you're looking to save some fuel. And that is the 2021 Ford Explorer Timberline. Honestly, I love the look of the exterior. I like what they've done with it to make it look more rugged and off-road capable and more trail capable. This isn't meant for heavy-duty off-roading. It's not a Bronco. It's more like in the tune of a Bronco Sport, and I don't even think it goes that far because of how long and large it is. But if you are planning on taking this on trails, I think it is perfectly capable, especially with the increased approach, departure, and breakover angles and the increased ground clearance. Not that it's much. It's less than an inch increase. But overall, I really do like the look of the Ford Explorer Timberline. I like what they've done with the car. I like the look of it. Like I said, this starts at $46,245, which I think for an Explorer, they are very practical, they are very economic, and they tote a lot of people around while being able to hold a bunch of stuff. So seeing that for a price tag for an Explorer, it's not too bad. And if you go up to the ST, I believe that starts around $48,000 if you're looking for anything performance-oriented. I have done a review of the Ford Explorer ST just in case you are interested in that. In fact, I've done like 3 videos on them. So just in case, go watch that video. But anyways, if you like this one, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more from us, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. And I will see you all in the next video.